So less than 5 months from now, we're going to defeat crooked Joe Biden. We're going to take back our country, and we're going to make America great again. So we've come today to the perfect place to talk about how we're going to end the economic catastrophe known as Bidenomics. You know, he thought that was a good. It was meant to be bad. It was originally done in the financial pages to talk about how bad it was. And he said, oh, I love the name. I love the name. So now he goes around and he talks about it like it's good. It's really bad. And I spoke to the incredible owners of Sportsman, and they were telling me, so different now than it was just 3 years ago. Sportsmen and other boat builders across the state exemplify the American manufacturing muscle. Incredible how big a boat business it is in this state that will help turn the Biden economic bust into another Trump economic boom. That's what you had. You had the greatest boom in history, most successful economy in history. Under my leadership, we built the greatest economy in the history of the world. In fact, we did it twice, if you remember. We had to do it twice, and now we're going to do it a third time, but it's going to be bigger, better, stronger than ever before. Ever before. But we had the greatest economy in the history, really, of the world. And then COVID came in, and we had to do it again, and we did a great job with COVID. Nobody knew what the hell it was, and we did a great job, and then we handed it over after a horrible. We got many millions of more votes. I was told if you got the same number, 63 million, you win easily. And we got millions and millions more. We got the most votes of any sitting president in history. And they say we lost the election. I don't think so. Terrible, terrible what's going on between bad elections and open borders, what's going on in our country. And that's almost the least of it. You could go through point after point. There's nothing good happening. In 4 short years, we passed the largest tax cuts and reforms in American history. We cut more job-killing regulations, your boat companies and every other company will tell you that, than any administration in history. Broke every record. We slashed the price of gasoline down to $1.87 per gallon. We created 20,000 manufacturing jobs right here in South Carolina. We delivered $140 million to ensure that Charleston has the deepest water port on the East Coast. Henry would drive me crazy. Sir, we need that money. Right, Henry? He'd call me and say, sir, we got to make that the deepest port. Well, I was only surprised. You say the East Coast. Don't you want to also include the West Coast? That'll be next. He's got that idea, I can tell you. But you have the deepest on the East Coast now, and that was a big deal, and it was a great job, and the governor did a great job in getting it done, and everybody else who helped. These are just a few of the reasons your boat building industry exploded and prospered like never before, and it was all under President Trump, and it was my honor. It now generates over $6 billion a year and employs 26,000 South Carolina workers. Think of that. And I'm very honored to say that my last 2 years, 2019 and 2020, were the best 2 years that South Carolina boat builders and South Carolina business has ever had. Is that right, Ed? Ever had. Every single major boat manufacturer in this state expanded their operations during the Trump administration. There wasn't one that went down even a little bit. They all went big. They went very big. They couldn't make them fast enough. When I left office, business was roaring like a 400 horsepower Mercury outboard motor. I just looked at them. They are seriously good looking. But then the economy slammed into a pile of rocks known as Crooked Joe Biden. Crooked Joe. We used to call him Sleepy Joe. Now we call him Crooked Joe. I took it away from Crooked Hillary. That was a good day when I took it. She had the best day. I think she celebrated that night. Now we call her Beautiful Hillary. She's a beautiful woman. Crooked Joe's inflation crisis has raised costs to small businesses like this one by more than 20% already, and it's going much higher. Biden's energy crisis has hurt sales by nearly tripling the cost to fill up a Sportsman's 355-gallon gas tank. Think of that, 3 times higher. Soaring interest rates, which is even a worse problem, make boat loans much more expensive, makes it very hard for people to buy boats, and all of this horrible stuff is happening against your incredible American worker. Under Biden, household incomes have been crushed. by nearly $7,400 a year. Does anyone know that? Marjorie, did you know that? Under Trump, incomes increased by more than $8,000 a year with no inflation. We didn't have inflation. A vote for crooked Joe Biden is a vote for inflation, taxation, submission, and failure. That's what it is. A vote for Trump is a vote for more jobs, higher wages, and more boats, cars, trucks, and airplanes stamped, made in America and made in South Carolina. Here are some of the first steps I'll take to rescue our workers, manufacturers, and small businesses from the burning wreckage of Bidenomics as soon as we get back into the Oval Office. We got to get back fast. I tell you, if we don't get back, I really believe this country is finished. I really believe it. I hate to say that. It's horrible. And Marjorie's nodding her head, and Henry's nodding his head, so I can't be the only one that thinks that. But I think this country will be finished. They're destroying our country so stupidly, so evilly. To rapidly reduce inflation, I will end Joe Biden's war on American energy and reclaim energy independence. 3 years ago, we were totally energy independent, heading over to energy dominance, right, Russell? For our next term, I've set the ambitious goal of achieving the #1 lowest cost of energy and electricity anywhere in any major industrial nation on Earth, and we'll be there within 6 months. In other words, we will drill, baby, drill. We're going to be drilling. We're going to be drilling like we were doing before. For decades, politicians like Crooked Joe viciously betrayed South Carolina workers. You know that. Look at what's happened to your state in the last few years. Short time ago, you had the best numbers you've ever had, and now they're rapidly coming down. Rapidly, like nobody's ever seen before. Has nothing to do with you. It has to do with people that are very stupid people, and I think very evil people in the White House. Your state lost 1 in 3 manufacturing jobs after Biden supported the NAFTA disaster and China's entrance into the WTO. That was a long time ago, but it showed his thinking. It was a disaster. The World Trade Organization, a disaster. China took advantage of everybody for years. I've been speaking about it for a long time, and I did a lot about it when I got into office. China paid us hundreds of billions of dollars. Not one president got 10 cents from China. I got hundreds of billions of dollars from China. If it were up to Crooked Joe Biden, every single job here at Sportsman Boats would be shipped off to another country. Biden puts China first, Mexico first, Ukraine first, Europe first, Asia first, illegal aliens first, above our great veterans, you know that. Puts the illegal aliens above our veterans. Our veterans live like hell. And you know what? You see what's happening. Do you ever see the illegal aliens? So the weirdest thing, they come in by the tens of thousands, sometimes a day, and they all have cell phones. I'm saying, where did they get the cell phones? Everybody has a cell phone. They're all talking on these beautiful cell phones, and they're expensive ones too. They're nice ones. Somebody who's into that said those are good phones. And then I say, who pays their bills? Who's paying the bills, Margie? Do you want to check that? I'll give it to Marjorie. She'll figure that one out fast. No, but you ever notice? They're all coming in with cell phones. Our veterans don't have cell phones, do they? But they put illegal aliens first and everyone first, but he puts America last. He puts our military last. He puts our veterans last. He puts workers last. He puts small businesses last. He puts everything that's good and proper last. He puts it last. It's crazy. I put America first every single time. Every single time. I ended NAFTA, the worst trade deal ever made, and replaced it with the USMCA, that's Mexico and Canada. The best trade deal ever made in this nation, although I must tell you, my deal with China was very good too, but I don't talk about it because of COVID. That was a step too far. But we did the USMCA, and they're trying to renegotiate. Mexico and Canada are trying to renegotiate it now because the deal turned out to be so good for us, and I wouldn't do it. We suffered with NAFTA for many years, for decades, and we didn't renegotiate it. We should have. We didn't. To further create a level playing field for our workers and small manufacturers, in our next term, I will impose across-the-board tariffs on most foreign-made goods. That's going to let your businesses compete. I'll also pass the Trump Reciprocal Trade Act. In other words, if China or any other country makes us pay a 200 or 300 or 100% tariff, we will make them pay a reciprocal tariff of the exact same amount. We will not allow Crooked Joe to destroy the South Carolina way of life. It's an incredible way of life. It's a culture, a beautiful way of life. It's no wonder that far-left lunatics are getting desperate to stop our movement by any means necessary. As you know, Crooked Joe and the radical left thugs have weaponized law enforcement to arrest their leading opponent. Me, I'm their leading opponent. I'm their only opponent. On fake and phony charges. I went through a whole life. I never heard the word indictment. All of a sudden, every day, I'm getting indicted. In fact, I'm getting a little concerned because we had a poll this weekend that was so big. I said, here we go, more indictments. Every time we get a good poll, we get indicted. This is high-level election interference, and it's happening for a single reason, because I'm the only candidate they do not want to run against. You know, they talk misinformation, disinformation. They're close enough. You know, somebody said, what's the difference? I said, I can tell you the difference, but they're very close. But they're very good at misinformation, disinformation. They see Trump is leading by 55 points. Think of that. And leading by 10 points against him. The Washington Post, ABC, 10 points. That's a lot, you know, because it's like considered a lot. It's hard for Republicans to lead by that much in the fake news media. The fake news media doesn't want to do that. But when they see these numbers, they get crazy. But we're leading by Ron DeSanctimonious. We're beating him by 56 points. You know, it's amazing. In yesterday's NBC News poll, I'm leading all of the Republicans in numbers like nobody's actually seen before. And we're at just about 60% already, and we're going up, and we're the only ones going up. They're going down. They're going down, down, down. They ought to stop wasting their time. You know, they're wasting a lot of time with these ridiculous debates that nobody's watching. Their last debate was the lowest rated debate in history. That's a good compliment, isn't it? Now, what was I doing, Marjorie? I was someplace else, wasn't I, huh? I was doing another interview. We had 271 million people listening to the Tucker Carlson interview. That's an all-time record. You know what the second was? It was Oprah Winfrey interviewing Michael Jackson. That was 15 years ago. We beat him by 150 million. That's a lot. I'm also beating Biden in the general while DeSantis and all of these other people are losing, and they're losing big. And in the new South Carolina poll, I'm way up, close to 51 or 52, and we're beating your former governor, who's not nearly as good as your current governor, by the way, and we're beating, not even close, by the way, and we're beating everybody by a lot. I mean, it's just been an incredible thing, and I just want to thank a lot of the people sitting up front. Some of them are such good politicians that have helped me that they're way in the back. They're not sitting up front. They don't want to be up front, Russell. They want to be in the back. I don't know. I think they're pretty good politicians, too. But I just want to thank everybody here and everybody all over, because you've been incredible. Every time they indict me, I consider it a great badge of honor. I'm being indicted for you. Thanks a lot. I appreciate it. Think of it. I have to call our great First Lady. They love Melania. I have to call Melania. And I have to call my kids. I say, kids, and Melania, listen, got a little thing. We're going to be indicted. I'm going to be indicted tonight. What for did absolutely nothing. Nobody knows. You ever see the reviews, the legal reviews of these indictments? They say these indictments are ridiculous. Every single one of them. He protested the election. What about Hillary Clinton and everybody protesting the 2016 election? What about all of those crazy radical left Democrats? They're still protesting. Now they're keeping a little bit quiet. You know, they're going a little bit lower. Never forget, our enemies want to stop us because we are the only ones who can stop them. They want to take away my freedom because I will never let them take away your freedom. That's true. I will never let them. I don't care. I don't care. I will never let them. They want to silence me because I will never let them silence you. And in the end, they're not after me, they're after you. I just happen to be standing in their way, unfortunately for me, but fortunately for you. Together, we have fought for this country like no movement has ever fought before. You know, this is the greatest movement in the history of the United States. There's never been a movement. MAGA, call it whatever you want. You know, Biden's always said MAGA, MAGA, MAGA. If you said, what does MAGA stand for? I guarantee you he couldn't answer. I said, MAGA means Make America Great Again. I guarantee if you said, Mr. Biden, explain to me, what does MAGA mean? What does it mean? He would say, radical. No, it means make America great again. We want to make America great again. And now we have to do it all over again because they've destroyed large pieces of what we did. We created the most secure border in the United States history and built nearly 500 miles of border wall. When I said to Mexico, you will pay for the wall, they largely did because they supplied us free of charge, 28,000 soldiers on our border, free of charge. That's a lot more than the cost of the wall. I said, no, that's an easier way of doing it. There was hardly a mechanism for them to pay for the wall, but I said, you'll pay for the soldiers. And we had the best border, the safest border in history. Now we have the worst border in the history of the world. There's never been a country with a border like this. Not even third world countries, not even banana republics. No country would allow this to happen to them. No country. On my first day back in the White House, I will terminate every open borders policy of the Biden administration and begin the largest deportation operation in American history. And I will also use Title 42 to end the child trafficking crisis by returning all trafficked children to their families in their home countries, and that will be done immediately. They want to go home. They want to go home. Horrible what they've done to children. On day one, I will sign a new executive order to cut federal funding for any school pushing critical race theory, transgender insanity, and other inappropriate racial, sexual, or political content onto the heads of our children. And I will not give one penny to any school that has a vaccine mandate or mask mandate. No mandates. I will immediately close the Federal Department of Education, and we will move everything back to the states where they can individualize education and do it with love for our children. You know, we spend a fortune in education. We spend more than any other country in the world by far. It's not even close. And we're last. Out of 40, we're 38, 37, sometimes even 40. We're last. So we spend sometimes 3 times. You have Denmark, you have Sweden, you have Norway, you have China. It's at the very top of the list a lot. And we're like last, and yet we spend 2 and 3 times more money per pupil than they do. We're going to end that. South Carolina will run their own. Do you like that idea, Henry? You'll do a great job. If you have the right people, you're going to do a great job. It can't be worse than what's happening right now. So many people in Washington, building after building. We need maybe 2 or 3 people just to make sure they are teaching English in our schools. Say, is everybody teaching English? Okay, you qualify. I think South Carolina, as an example, in particular, a place like South Carolina would do an unbelievable job with education. And I will secure our elections, because our elections, if you don't have great, free, fair elections and you don't have borders, you don't have a country. And right now, we don't have much of a country. We're laughed at all over the world. Our goal will be one-day voting with paper ballots and voter ID. It's very simple. One-day voting, paper ballots, voter ID. But until then, we have to make sure we win. We have to literally swamp them. You know, when the Washington Post, ABC came out with their big numbers that I was leading by 10 points, do you know that ABC wouldn't put the numbers on? Do you know that ABC and the Washington Post said this must be an outlier, meaning the numbers that they spend millions of dollars on polling, the numbers must be wrong. It was their poll. And that I watched. They didn't want to put the numbers on, so they covered the minor numbers underneath, but they didn't want to put the numbers on, and they didn't. Now, these are corrupt people. We will evict Joe Biden from the White House. We will continue, and we will finish the draining of the swamp once and for all. The great silent majority is rising like never before, and that is happening. I've never seen I've never seen spirit or enthusiasm like we have this time. More so than 2020, more so than 2016. And we had a lot. We had it in records, but it's never, because now they see how bad these people, they're evil, they're sick. And under our leadership, the forgotten men and women will be forgotten no longer. With your help, your love, and your vote, we will put America first, and we will make America great again, bigger and better than ever before. Thank you, South Carolina. Thank you.